Hello everyone, on this HCW news we will be covering the details of the arrest of Velveteen Dream twice over the last month. We'll also be covering all the backstage drama that's occurred at AEW, including details of the talent meeting that occurred prior to Dynamite, heat between top female stars in the company, and the Eddie Kingston suspension with his altercation with Sammy Guevara. Stay tuned. Roll intro.
It's time for HCW News.
Welcome everyone to the HCW News. My name is RGX, joined this week by Frozzy. How you doing, buddy?
Yep, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. There's just a lot of stuff going on in AEW at the minute, so I'm quite looking forward to getting into that a little bit, because normally we're predominantly WWE, especially over the last few months, so it'll be fun to sidetrack into them for a change.
Yeah, very interesting details are coming out of there just now, between various things that are cropping up and coming to light. But before we get to that, Velveteen Dream has been arrested twice in the last month for possession of drug paraphernalia. The arrests occurred on the 20th and 26th of August, and it was by the Orange County Clerk's Office that arrested him. In fact, the first charge on the 20th of August was for first degree battery and trespassing. So he did plead not guilty to the charges and posted a $1,200 bond, and an arraignment is scheduled for the end of September. However, a motion has been put forward to cancel that and push it back, because the details of it have obviously leaked with us talking about it. Yeah. So they are looking to move it to a date to maintain confidentiality, which is a fairly common thing whenever news stories or arrests come out in the public eye before someone is convicted.
Yeah.
So there was talk of some people in WWE campaigning for his return after he was released by WWE in May last year, for good reason, I might add, with all the personal circumstances going on around him, shall we speak. I will leave it at that. I won't go too much into the details of the who, what, where and why he was released in the first place. I feel it's
if you want to see it, it's there for everyone to see if you want to see it.
Yeah, I feel it's pretty common knowledge at this point as well, so rehashing old ground on it won't help anyone. Needless to say though, those wanting him back in WWE need to reconsider, especially in the light of these recent arrests. But unfortunately this week there's not a lot of WWE news, so it's time to focus on AEW. So for the last few weeks we have been hearing rumours and stories of backstage unhappiness with the way things are being booked, their access to Tony Khan. Obviously we covered the Jonathan Gresham stuff, as well as Brian Cage's unhappiness, Joey Janela, etc. Now, before the meeting, before Dynamite on Wednesday, Tony Khan called an all-talent meeting, where he essentially hashed out the issues that talent were having, mainly because a lot of these stories are getting leaked. It is becoming a bit of a floodgate being open. So at that meeting there was a few people who spoke. Obviously Tony himself spoke about it, and in addition to that, Chris Jericho and Tony Schiavone spoke up at the meeting, because Schiavone is essentially now the head of talent relations, so he's more so just to get himself rolling and create a dialogue with the guys. They did cover a lot during the meeting. And obviously at the end, apparently Kenny Omega kind of spoke to everyone, whereas everyone else was kind of not kid gloves, but kind of open, calm dialogue. It left a lot of people feeling when Kenny was speaking that it was kind of tough love. Or as some people have told Fightful, Kenny being Kenny. So that was an interesting little wrinkle there. But that isn't all that's come out over the last kind of week or so. Obviously, with the match being changed for the AEW Women's Championship, Thunder Rosa isn't able to compete it all out, and apparently she does have significant heat with a large number of the people backstage. Through Fightful and Voices of Wrestling, Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa can't stand each other. They've had heat with each other for well over a year at this point. Now, the two do tend to work together out of professionalism, and they still remain open to doing so from what we're told. However, after Jamie Hayter's nose was broken, a lot of the roster, I say a lot of the roster, a lot of Britt Baker's circle are speaking up about Rosa working stiff, including a rumour. It's not been confirmed that after the Battle of the Belts match where Rosa accidentally broke Hayter's nose, instead of apologising, she went and hid from her in fear of being beaten up. That was a report on that Zero News guy that nobody was able to fully corroborate. And to be honest, if you were Rosa, would you admit to hiding in the bathroom? If you were Britt and Jamie attempting to remain professional, would you throw a colleague under the bus like that, whether you like them or not? No, you wouldn't. So I don't know how much truth there is to that report, but we have heard reports of extras and staff backstage at AEW being spoken to out of turn, and that Rosa supposedly has an ego backstage. So apparently the injury that she's got isn't known, but it's supposed to be related to her back. But it's not a work. But they've not been able to get any kind of confirmation from Rosa on that. It wouldn't surprise me, and if it was me personally in that position, then a mental health break might be part of it as well, which you can only relate to and understand. Yeah. What do you think about all that stuff from what you've heard?
There's a heck of a lot going on. It's insane because at one point when AEW first became a thing, there was going to be no backstage tension. You're not going to have all this stuff going on with creative. I'm going to have open dialogue with the superstars. So the fact they've had to hold a talent meeting 2.5, nearly 3 years in, they did well for a while, but now it's obviously going to pieces. He's taking on too much, Tony Khan, and he's tried to burn the candle at both ends and he can't do it. So now he just needs to get his shit together. In terms of the women, am I surprised that Thunder Rosa has got an ego? No. Because for a while she was the best thing that they had. So she's built the ego from that, and now there's women in there that are very, very good when they get given the chance. Mm-hmm. And if you're a stiff worker and you're going to break someone's nose, there's going to be a bit of a comeback on it. But if you stand your ground and say, "Look, I'm sorry," then things tend to get brushed under. So she's not helped herself in that regard. But you don't wish injury or bad mental health on anyone, no matter the situation. So.
Yeah. Like, I do have sympathy for her, whether she's been cruel backstage or not. I mean, from what I've read, she has almost as many supporters backstage as she does detractors. Yeah. So I wouldn't put all the kind of stock in the world into what's going on. It's just that's the story that's emerging, and Fightful have reported on it. So I feel that we should as well.
Yeah.
But you're right about Tony Khan, and I think obviously we have the benefit in the UK of seeing what's going on with the football and stuff.
Yeah.
Fulham have been extremely active in the transfer market, and Tony Khan has overseen a lot of that personally.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise to me that during this transfer window of the June, July, August, that's when all these issues have crept up, because he's at his busiest.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it anyway.
Yeah, you just can't do it. Like, if you're running a major wrestling company and you're running a major football club and they're in two completely different countries as well. I mean, I know we have Zoom and Discord and all the stuff you can use to communicate, but some of these deals need doing in person. You've got to fly to countries to sign players, and sometimes you need to just be somewhere else, and you can't be everywhere.
Yeah, and you don't bring in the players that Fulham have brought in without like someone being there to make them the pitch and say, look, I know we're a smaller team, but we've got this much potential. Like, you can tell from the players he's bringing in that he's having a hand in it, because he is the kind of guy that has the sweet talk of being able to sign someone. He's proved that with AEW, and he's proven that with Fulham in the transfer market. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
you just can't do it all. It's just impossible. Like, he wants to have, and it's probably a very poor comparison, but a Vince McMahon work ethic. But Vince only had one company. He tried the XFL and it went to pieces. So, I mean, he didn't try again. But he had one company, and that was where all his focus was.
Yeah, and remember, like, WWF, it would have been WWF at the time. Yeah. Like, booking suffered a little bit for that period, because he wasn't there directly overseeing it. Yeah. So, sadly, that's not the only story that's come out through AEW, but it is the last one we'll be covering on today's video for them. Obviously, Eddie Kingston was suspended recently for an altercation that he had with Sammy Guevara at a Rampage taping a few weeks ago. Obviously, Kingston hasn't been present lately, and apparently that was because he was suspended. It all came about from a promo that was eventually edited out, where Sammy Guevara allegedly made a joke about his physique in the promo that it hadn't cleared with Eddie Kingston beforehand. Kingston then approached him backstage after he came through the curtain, and they had a back and forth, and it ended with Guevara being essentially pie-faced by Eddie Kingston, and it kind of broke off from there. Now, when details of this first emerged, that was all we kind of knew at the time, that it was related to Sammy making a joke about his weight, and that's where we saw it. We thought, oh, Eddie Kingston's right to be standing up for himself on that. We have both since commented on it, more so Sammy than Eddie, who's basically just said, look, I was in the wrong, let's leave it at that. I really don't like Sammy, but I was in the wrong doing what I did. And that was all we heard from Eddie and his side of it. And it came to Sammy, he did release a full statement basically explaining that whenever they were planning their match and promos and stuff, building it all out, they laid out what they wanted as a no anything to do with their, like, the Sammy Tay relationship is fair game. There was other stuff that he had on there he didn't want him to discuss, and Kingston made no mention of anything that was off limits according to Sammy. So Sammy went out there, cut his promo, called Kingston a fat piece of S word, and then came back through the curtain. In Sammy's mind, he was very much of the opinion that at the end of the day, everyone sees him as a little annoying heel. He was merely playing that character so that when Eddie beats him at All Out, there's justice behind it, it's a feel-good moment, etc. So that gives away the booking on that already if the match does go ahead, but I know what I'm top locking. But but when it came to the actual promo, like they had no like block from each other from mentioning it, at least specifically. And what really struck me is an entirely fair line, which tells me he was doing it all in character, was he would never body shame another performer, because it's no different than people body shaming him for being too small and not having enough weight on him, which I completely agree with. That's a very fair assessment, which again makes me think he's being genuine with this. So obviously he posted that. Kingston again just said, look, yeah, I was wrong, don't go after Sammy for this. Still hate the kid. but he was the one in the wrong, so I kind of respect that. What I'd seen off the back of that though was a Twitter thread from a virtual signing thing he was doing, where he was being asked what his thoughts are about various wrestlers in the company. I did share this in the Discord, so some of you may have seen this already. But he used a lot of, how can I put it, not very up-to-date language, like mild homophobic slurs, that kind of thing. And he even corrects himself in one of the videos in the thread, saying he's just an old school guy that says stuff you're not really meant to say anymore. He doesn't mean anything by it, but he still says it.
I was going to say he still said it.
So obviously I've not always been Kingston's biggest fan, but hearing basically the diatribe that was out of character, it was his personal feelings on members of the roster, really made me realise, that's why he was never signed by a major promotion before. That's because he's not a good positive backstage influence, from his own words, from what he was saying during that virtual signing. So yeah, that covers all the Sammy and Eddie stuff, and that is the news for this week in general. Have you anything to add, or anything you've seen pop up that?
Nothing that stands out. Obviously, with the Sammy and Kingston stuff, I don't particularly like either guy. So it's one of them where if they hate each other, they hate each other. Don't be unprofessional. Deal with it like an adult, which they do seem to have done. Fair play to Sammy Guevara for his full disclosure, and Kingston for owning up for what he's done. Because that's all it takes at the end of the day. You've just got to be an adult, and you're just like, I messed up. It's on me. And that dampens half of it anyway. So this won't even be news in like a week. But no, in terms of anything that I've seen, there's nothing that I feel is worth mentioning.
Yeah. So in channel news, we have another interview going live tomorrow. This one is with Corey McRae, wrestler based in the south of England, who's competed worldwide against names like Mike Bailey, James Storm, Karen Noir. A very colourful personality, so we'll say. Quite a good interview, if I don't say so myself. So we'll see that tomorrow at 8 PM. And we have our podcast as normal on Thursday. Hopefully night 2 of DP's review. coming either Friday or Saturday. Saturday we've got that little thing in Cardiff that we're attending.
Yeah.
So if any of you are at that show, we may well bump into you. If you see us and recognise us, say hi. But I find that somewhat unlikely, but you never know.
Imagine.
We will be there from a good hour or so before the show kicks off. So if you do see us in the queue, come over and say hi. We possibly maybe going to ICW after. See how we feel. But I will be recording stuff to do a kind of live vlog of our experience at the event and the festivities surrounding it. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. And then normal service resumes the following week. So
Do it.
all our usual stuff is in the description below, our Twitter, our Discord, etc. Please do like, comment, subscribe, share this video out, and yeah, do all the usual stuff. All that's left for me to say then is thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye everyone.